my podcast GPT, which I have created about a year and a half ago. And when I first created it, I needed to use VS Studio Code, and all of that was done through running it through another server on Heroku and pulling the API into Heroku to ChatGPT and then connecting a Google spreadsheet, which is what I use as a form intake, and I collect all the answers from guests. And it was a whole process. It took me several days to code and I made it work. However, it had issues once in a while where the API would stop pulling the information from the spreadsheet and I would have to go back and troubleshoot. So it definitely took some time to just work on it. So I decided to go back into the code, and this time by using Claude code, vibe coding, and look at what I have created in the past, have Claude analyze it, and it's gone through all of that. He was looking through the Python application, the podcast GPT app that I created via Python and Flask, and then it looked at the Flask application, the Python script that was generated, the deployment, the API integration, all of that, and then the deployment directory, which was Radiant Mountain, which was another server that I created. So all of this was necessary to run the old version of this podcast GPT. But now I wanted to update the code and I wanted to make it easier. So I had Claude work on it, examine it, and make it more comprehensive and easier to deploy without having to run into those issues, which I would every so often run into due to Google credentials, API issues, and some other things. So I did all of that, and just through a few lines of back and forth between me and Claude, we were able to troubleshoot what the issue was in the first place, and then also change the destination of the Google spreadsheet that I needed to update to a 2025 version because I was operating on a 2024 version. So all of that super easy with Claude this time, and lo and behold, the app is working again. And now when I go in my ChatGPT app, which is where it's basically being deployed from, I can go and just randomly ask for a podcast script for one of my guests, which has already entered their information into the spreadsheet. So I'm seeing something interesting. When I open this one sequence of ChatGPT in my podcast script, which I have created for the podcast script GPT, it has no problem pulling the information from the spreadsheet and generating a script with just one line. Generate the podcast script for Addie Claude. She's one of the guests, and without having to prime it any further. However, if I start a new instance, it seems like it's running into the issue of not being able to read the document. So I'm going to have to go back into the code and figure out why it's doing that. Right now, it seems like in this instance, does not have a problem with just pulling that from the spreadsheet, no matter who the guest is. But if I were to start a new instance on the same GPT, it has an issue. So yeah, something to look into to figure out exactly why is it doing that. I have to go back in the script to figure out what is happening and why is it not doing it if I'm starting a new instance with exactly the same prompt and the same conditions. And this is the fun thing about building with AI and vibe coding. It will never be perfect. You will always have to reiterate. You'll have to go back to troubleshoot. And if you're telling me that vibe coding doesn't require any understanding of the code, I think it could be true, but it will take you so much longer to figure out versus if you had a clue.